Hi, I'm Ben Pascoe from learningsurfphotography.com, and I'm going to run through the options you've got right now for a pistol grip style trigger for your GoPro camera. You probably want to use one of these when you're shooting surf photography because it just makes it a lot easier to line up the shot. It's just a lot more intuitive to pull the trigger like that to release the shutter. Aquatate housings, other DSLR style housings all have this kind of shutter for shooting wide angle shots, which is obviously what you're going to be doing with your GoPro. There's a few different options. I did do a blog post a little while ago that's quite popular with a few of these laid out, but I've now had a chance to try them all out, so I thought I'd just do a quick review, rundown of each of the options with some pros and cons. The first one, which I mentioned in my review, was the SP Gadgets remote pole. So your GoPro Hero 3 Plus remote goes in there, and then you can obviously release the shutter or change the mode and do everything you want to there. Extends obviously quite a long way. I found, the reason I'm doing this one first is because I really found it wasn't very practical for shooting surf. I thought it'd be all right, kind of either using it with your thumb there, like that, or as a more traditional finger trigger like that. But it's way too bulky, it's too heavy. I guess it's ideal for non-water-based sports like snowboarding or even like SUP or kayaking or something like that, where you're above the water the majority of the time and you need to get a bit further away from yourself, then this is going to be a good option. But I really didn't find it was very good for surfing. The range on this remote, if it's underwater, that's not going to cut it. You're going to lose signal. So if you go underwater for any longer than a couple of seconds, you're going to lose the connection. It does tend to pick it up pretty quickly again, so it's not the end of the world. And naturally, more often than not, you're going to be taking the photo before you go under the water, and the sequence, 30 frames in a second or whatever you're using, is going to continue on, and then you'll be picking up the signal before the next wave comes. But sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes it'll lose it for a bit longer. If you bob around like this with the remote underneath the water and this above, it's just not going to find the signal, so a bit frustrating. I also just a bit too bulky to kind of slip in your front zip wetsuit or stash anywhere while you're surfing, so not very practical. So it's the cheapest one out of the lot. It's going to set you back around $70, about £50, and yeah, I mean, good for lots of different applications, but I wouldn't recommend it if your primary use is going to be shooting surf photos. So on to the two other options. This is what I've been using before. It's just the GoPro bobber, and this normal GoPro housing sits on the top. This floats obviously and it's highly visible, so that's one bonus. It's really small, so you can shove it in the wetsuit when you're not using it. So I do use this one a fair bit, but for video it's okay. For stills it's a real nightmare because your finger can very easily get in the way of the lens. It's just not very ergonomic for shooting stills. So I'd recommend grabbing one if you're not going to be shooting stills very much, if it's mostly video. But there are two much better options if you're going to be shooting still photos with your GoPro camera. The first one I want to talk about is the KNEKT. This is the GPL LT trigger, which I believe is their latest model. They do one called I think it's the GP3 Plus, which it's got a bit more aluminium on it, kind of a U-shaped cradle for the camera that it slots in, exactly the same sort of design on the trigger, which is the critical bit, which is what I'll talk about in a moment. This one, obviously, as you can see, doesn't allow you to put an extended backpack on the camera, so you can't use the LCD backpack, for instance, while you're using this one, or an extra battery pack. The other one, you can do that, which has the kind of U-shaped connector. I'll pop a little photo up here so you can see the difference. This one's a bit cheaper, $99, so that's about just over £60. The other one's $150, about just over £90. I'll bring up another a reason why you might want to go for this one in the future as well. But for now, let's talk about this. I really liked it. I think it's the most elegant design out of all the ones I've tried. As you can see, it's exactly what you'd expect. You pull that trigger, that engages with the button on the top. I have tested this with the Hero 3, like the 60-meter housing, which came with the Hero 3 cameras, and the Hero 3 Plus housing, and it works fine with both. There's a couple of GoPro cameras recently announced, the GoPro Hero 4 and the GoPro Hero, which is going to be like a budget option. And looking at the specs of them, it's not kind of official yet, should be in a few days, but they should both work with this as well. So I think you're pretty much covered for the foreseeable in terms of compatibility with any sort of camera that GoPro offer. The main things I like about this are it's lightweight. Really doesn't weigh much. This is like a nylon handle with foam grip here, so it's super lightweight. They do a leash as well, like a really short leash, which is perfect for it. Make sure it's not going to swing around all over the place if you do lose grip on it. What else do I like? They've got these tripod screws. That's like a normal, like a standard tripod thread on the bottom there, and there's another one on the top, which is amazing really. It allows you to expand it so you can, I had a bracket coming off here with another GoPro on the side facing like 90 degrees, so it's perpendicular to this one. So I could shoot 270-degree shots, stitch them together in Photoshop. I'll probably put a post up about that on learningsurfphotography.com soon. That was really good. I think you could put a light on the top is the other kind of obvious one that I can think of, but there's obviously another GoPro on the top, maybe shooting video while you shoot stills with this one. Just endless possibilities because it's such a universal thread on there, on the top and the bottom. I just think it's a really, really clever design. I think they've done a really good job. The price point's pretty good. It's $99, so it's not super duper expensive. You can definitely get cheaper things like the SP gadgets, but it won't do as good a job in the surf as something like this will. Just super intuitive. Also, just noticed they got a new product which is like a plastic clip-on piece that goes on this trigger because it's quite thin. I think if you've been in the water for quite a while, then you might start getting a bit annoyed because that's maybe a bit harsh on the finger. But here in the UK, I'm more likely to be using gloves if anything, so I don't think that's going to be an issue here. Might be in Hawaii where I think they're based. But you can get this extra piece which clips on there, which makes it like a wider trigger, which is more comfy. So that's going to be an option for you as well. Just shows that they're thinking about these things, and they don't want to they're not releasing a new product with a wide trigger, for instance. They're just making a little add-on. I think it's $15 that you can pop onto your existing one. So I like the way they're adding on things. They're making their products expandable from the outset, and it's just as lightweight as it could possibly be and do the right job. So thumbs up for the KNEKT trigger, the GPL LT version. Really, really good. Should be pretty future-proof. Your other option right now for a pistol grip release for a GoPro is this, well, the major one I guess, is the SPL water housings version. So you might see my other video which is about why you'd want this big dome on there, but they do this with a flat port as well, which has the control for the front button, and this back button's controlled here. It's made of aluminium, so one of the advantages you're going to get over perhaps something like this is this thing's going to be more hard wearing. Obviously this uses the original housing, so I've never managed to break one of those yet. There's lots of spare parts for these you can buy off the shelf, which is an advantage of that. This just isn't going to break. It's made of aluminium. I just can't see anything happening to it ever. There will be a little bit of a learning curve. It does involve bolts and tools and things like that, which you just don't have to worry about with something like this. You lose control of the front button with the dome, but I guess it's not really like for like. So if I compare this with the flat port versus the KNEKT, then that's a bit more like it. So what you'd pay for that is $225 for, that gets you the grip, this aluminium casing here, and the flat port for it. They've actually changed the design now, so there is like a finger style pistol grip rather than the thumb. I didn't mind the thumb one really. It's super sensitive, so it really doesn't take much to trigger it. It's obviously a bit bulkier. I say that, I mean, as you can see, you've got more vertical with this. It's got like a nice rubberized grip on it. There's not much to choose between them in terms of bulk really. I think they're both going to be as difficult to tuck into your wetsuit. So more hard wearing, obviously costs that bit more as well. The main advantage of this one is the dome. That's why I've got it on there. It's why I did the video of this one before, and a lot of people are interested in. finding out about this. So I guess you're going to know why you'd want to use this big dome for those over-under style shots. I think if you have this housing, I mean, just to go show, I haven't actually used that. I've just used it with the dome. I don't see any real point in just buying it for the flat port. At the moment, that does everything you'd want it to do. If all you want to do is shoot pistol grip style shore break photos with your GoPro, I would go for the KNEKT every time. If you want to do something different, if you want to set yourself apart a little bit at the moment from other people who are just shooting with the GoPro, this is one of the only ways of doing it. It's the dome port. This is the 5-inch model, so this exact setup now, obviously they've changed it, extended this, they've made it look a bit more clunky, but it does release from the finger. So for the aluminium housing, the pistol grip and the flat port is $200. The 5-inch dome is $225. There's an 8-inch dome for $695, 10-inch for $850, and 11-inch for $900. That's on top of the $200 you paid for the base unit. So it's definitely not a cheap kind of impulse buy by any means. You do get the advantage of having these two setups. So you're kind of buying 2 in 1 when you do get the dome with it. Personally, from my experience using the 5-inch dome, and I'll show you some kind of example videos up here as well, I think the reason you get it is for that over-under shot, naturally. The reason you go for a bigger dome than that 5-inch one is if you're going to be shooting waves, like only waves, because with this dome, if the waves are any bigger than, you know, a foot or so, then it becomes really hard to get the under and over in the same shot while there's a wave breaking. It's possible, and with a bit of practice, I'm sure you could do it fairly consistently. But I think with an 8-inch, 10-inch dome, that's going to be a lot easier. The reason what I found myself doing most of the time with the over-under dome thing was flat water stuff, because certainly here in the UK, in the southwest of the UK, the water clarity is not the best, and so if there's been any waves, any kind of storms dredging up the sand at all, then it just gets even worse. So, but you know, if you go to a river, if you're fishing, if you're doing SUP, this is great. I really liked it. Just jumping off rocks and things like that just gives you a whole other dimension, and it really does offer you something unique that you can't get anywhere else right now. So if that's what you're after, if you're just going to be going for mostly flat water and tiny waves, 5-inch dome, don't see any problem with that at all. Go for it. It's obviously quite a bit more affordable than the bigger options as well. If you absolutely must take photos in bigger waves, maybe you're somewhere with a lot of coral reefs and things like that where there's interesting stuff going on underneath. I know when I was in Samoa, I was using my 8-inch dome port for my Aquatech housing to shoot kind of over-under shots with waves coming, and that was brilliant. So if that's what you're after, or if you live somewhere like that, if you're lucky enough to live somewhere with great water clarity and fish swimming around and things, and waves, then go for a bigger one. I'm not sure you're going to see much advantage of the 10 or the 11-inch over the 8-inch, to be honest. It's quite a bit more money, so that's down to you. Other thing to bear in mind is, future-proofing wise, the GoPro Hero 4 should be the same size as the Hero 3 Plus, so it should fit in this aluminium housing no problem. It's not clear at the moment because it is a few days, the official announcement's a few days away. There's some photos that have been up on Petapixel, so I'll put a link to those so you can have a look at them. As long as the buttons are in the same place, it shouldn't be any problem at all. You should be able to use both of these style housings with the Hero 4. There is the cheaper version, the Hero, which I suppose if you're going to be spending a few $100s on accessories like this, you're likely to have the Hero 4 in any case, but just in case, if you've got the cheaper Hero, it's got a permanently attached case as far as I can tell. That's not going to go in here, obviously. Will work fine with the KNEKT, as long as the button again is in the right place, but it's not going to go in there, so something to bear in mind. And then obviously if they change the case somehow in the future for the Hero 5, 6, whatever, then you might be a bit lumbered with this, whereas something like this, it's even adjustable. I mean, they've really done a good job here. You can use a little Allen key to slide that up and down, so maybe they'll make it a little bit smaller. You could just slide that up a little bit, I think, and maybe not, maybe down a little bit. I don't know. I just think If it's over under shots you want, then SPL is the only option at the moment. You've got to go to their website as well. It's the only way to buy it. So head to splwaterhousings.com. I'll put a link in the notes underneath, and on my website learningsurfphotography.com, so you can purchase that. I'll have links to the other items as well. One thing to note, KNEKT are in the process, this is based on their Instagram page where a lot of companies seem to make announcements, SPL, KNEKT, follow them on Instagram. I'll put their Instagram feeds in the post. One interesting one actually to follow with KNEKT is, it's at Bodie, let me check, at Bodie Orton. I'll put a link to his Instagram feed on the post on learningsurfphotography.com. I guess he's the designer there because he's got some really cool kind of behind the scenes images of the development of one of their other products, which there's no kind of release date or pricing or anything yet, but it's in the same way as this is, it's an over-under style dome for the KNEKT system. So in the photos, and I'll pop a couple up here that were from their Instagram, you can see that it is a GPL LT trigger that they're using as the base with the dome in front of the housing. And as far as I can tell, I mean, it's really hard to tell because they're not giving much away at the moment. It seems to have the same original GoPro housing there. So in the latest photos, they've got like it basically looks very similar to that, but it's kind of machined out of aluminium by the looks of it. I can see that being really, really good. I'd feel confident in saying that it's going to be a quality product based on the other items I've seen. So if you wanted to hang fire, there's going to be a few options around. I think that's going to shake up the pricing perhaps at the moment. SPL have come to market really early and really strong with a really good product, but I believe KNEKT are going to come right up and have something very similar very soon. So all in all, I don't think you can go wrong at the moment if you go for either KNEKT or the SPL. My personal choice for general surf photography is the KNEKT GPL LT trigger. And if you need to do those over-under shots, SPL is the only way to go right now. Hang fire, give it 3 or 4 months, probably, I'd imagine tied in quite closely with the Hero 4 release would be sensible for KNEKT. If they can get that out at the right time and make it the right price, then I think they're going to be onto a winner there. That about wraps it up. I'm hopefully going to be testing out a few more GoPro mouth mounts pretty soon. So any surfers, bodyboarders, or anyone who needs to hold their GoPro in their gob somehow, then subscribe and you'll be seeing some more of that very soon. Yeah, and hopefully a few more videos as well, just showing some extra stuff, perhaps going into the DSLR side of things for anyone who's interested in that side. But yeah, get out there, get yourself a pistol grip and get shooting.